The UK immigration laws have changed a lot in recent years, and in 2025 the rules are changing even faster. The government have removed the care work visa, they have increased the minimum salary threshold, and they have also cut many jobs from the shortage list. And now they want even bigger changes, from graduate visa reducing down to 18 months and taking 10 years instead of 5 for getting your ILR. And this is all because of a white paper introduced named Restoring Control Over the Immigration System, which was introduced in the May 2025. So in this video, I'm going to take you through the biggest changes which has happened in this year and what they mean for you and what I personally think about them. So the first set of changes we saw were in April 2025. Now this was the time when we started seeing a lot of increase in fees across the board, whether it be your visa fees, settlement fees, or even the fees which are not meant for you but people who are sponsoring you. Everything increased. Now I'm going to show you on the screen here what actually went down. You can see this paper is from 9th of April 2025, and all of the visa fees from your normal visit visa to long visit visa to transit visa to going down to work, whether it be your skilled work visa 3 years or less, 3 years or more, and going down your student visa, main application and the dependent, it increased £34. Going down sponsorship, certificate of sponsorship, it went from £239 to £525. So all of the fees increased dramatically. So this was the first shock which UK government gave to a lot of people. Moving on to the second change, which was introduced in July. Now the changes made in this month were part of the white paper from May 2025, and these changes were some of the biggest changes UK government has ever made. Now let's go through what all of these changes are. The biggest change was in the minimum salary requirement, which went from £38,700 to £41,700. So that was the increase of £3,000 and nearly twice as much in very recent years. Now if you look at their website, you can clearly see that the standard rate is 41,000 or going rate for your job, whichever is higher. So if the going rate for your job is 45,000 but your salary is 42,000, that means you will not qualify for this. Now they have given the going rate table, and if you open it, you'll be on this website, and I will give the link in the description for this website. But when you click on it, and you can look at all of the list which is eligible occupations for skilled work visa. Now obviously this does not mean that all of the jobs should have the rate of 41,700. There are some exceptions when you can be paid less. So if you do not meet the usual salary requirement and you do not work in the healthcare or education, you might still be eligible if your salary will be at least 33,400 per year. So you can see when you can be paid less. So basically you can see that if you're under 26 or you're studying or are a recent graduate or are in a professional training, then you can be paid 33,400 per year. So if you're in the UK as a student or on a graduate visa or in some kind of training or doing PhD, you can have a look at all the requirements here, then you are eligible to get a sponsored job for 33,400, and this way you do have an advantage over other people. Now for people who does not qualify in any of these, then you can still be paid 33,400 if you are on the immigration salary list. Now immigration salary list is a list of skilled jobs which have lower salary requirements, but UK government has also removed the immigration salary list and have replaced it with the temporary shortage list. This basically means that it will be a bit more fluid. They will be checking it regularly and updating it regularly, whereas the immigration salary list was more like people can rely on it a bit more. Now here's the page of immigration salary list. Now if you got your certificate of sponsorship before the 4th of April 2024 and have held one or more skilled work visa, then you can apply for a lower rate column. However, if your job is on this list, you have to have the 33,400 as a standard rate or even 39,900 in some jobs. So it depends on your field, it depends on your experience. So I will advise you go through this whole list, search for your list. They've given a lot of data regarding exactly what your job will require for you to do, and then you can tailor your job search process based on that. Now another major change was in the requirement of getting a skilled worker visa, that you should have at least RQF Level 6, which is a bachelor's degree. Now this kind of makes sense that you should have at least a bachelor degree before you come and work in the UK, and honestly, like, some of the changes are really not that weird, like they make sense. However, the changes like the minimum salary requirement, it will affect a lot of people. Now let me give you an example. If you are a recent graduate, your most probably salary based on a lot of data and what employers are paying other people from the UK is gonna be a lot lower than 33,000. Most of the student will only be earning 30,000, and this is gonna be a problem even if you get a job in your own field, even whatever you have studied. Even then you have to have a job in one of the highest paying companies to land a sponsorship. And around the same time, they have also stopped issuing visas for social care workers. Now, if you're thinking about going that route, it is completely off limits. However, if you're currently on the social care visa and your visa is about to expire somewhere before 2028, you can still renew it within the UK. So when these changes were introduced, around 100 jobs were removed from the shortage list, and it kind of like removes a lot of people who were planning to settle in the UK. Now coming down to the third change, and these were recently announced in September, and they are not yet implemented, but they all are officially been talked about, and it is just a matter of time till they become a reality. Now if I can quickly show you the whole document, I will have a link in the description of this whole document so you can go through this and have a read. But let me quickly take you through some of the key points in this one. So this is titled Restoring Control Over Immigration System. It's from May 2025. So if you go down and have a look, there are a lot of data around immigration in this one. So if you are interested in data as a numbers, you can have a read for this whole document. And I'll say you should, because you know, this kind of documents impact us. So there are some key points which I want to share with you. So if you look at this 52 point, in August 2020, the healthcare visa route was introduced and expanded in February 2022 to include the social care workforce, which the roles are generally below the RQF level 6, which is like below the bachelor's degree. And you can see this figure for the share of skilled worker visa issued in RQF 3 and below, RQF 4 and 5, and RQF 6 and above. So you can see the number like RQF level 3 and below increased dramatically by the end of 2023 and start of 2024. And this was really concerning, because this was bringing a lot of people into the UK who are not educated enough, and they just found a back door to enter the UK and get a work visa and settle here. Now if we move forward, so first of all, raising the threshold for skilled work visa. So point number 68, growth in visa numbers and the concern about exploitation of overseas recruits have been particularly seen in the occupation below RQF 6, which is a degree, like a graduate degree. Therefore, we will lift the level for skilled worker back to RQF 6 and above. Salary threshold will rise. So this is the change where we talked about how they've increased, the level of education people need for them to qualify for a skilled work visa. Now if you go down and you look at the point number 81, it is, we will therefore end overseas recruitment for social care visas in line with our wider reform. So they have also given the transaction period until 2028, whoever currently has that visa. So this was all because of the social care visa scam. I'll call it a scam, to be honest, going on in the UK, and I'll make a separate video about that scam. I'll share all the numbers, and then you'll understand why UK had to take such a drastic step. And I personally kind of like not know too much, but I have seen it myself, so I'm going to be sharing that as well. Now they're also increasing the immigration skill charge, and these are generally paid by the employers if the employer is willing to pay a bit more, or they can get someone from the UK for a bit cheaper. Now if you look at this one, so only 30% of the people actually get a job which do require RQF level 6 or above. So only 30% of the graduate actually get a job, where they were required to have, kind of like studied in the UK. Like let me tell you it in a bit different words. So imagine if I completed my undergrad or masters, and then I'm only getting the job which doesn't even require a bachelor degree. Like even if you have done your A levels or class 12th, you can still apply for those jobs, and it won't make a difference if you have done your degree or not. So most of the people were in kind of the jobs where it does not require you to have a degree. So all of these things is the reality of the UK, and UK is basically facing their own reality, and what the whole student visas mean and everything. So this is it, graduate. So the graduate route was launched in July 2021 as an unsponsored route which allows students to stay in the UK for 2 years or 3 years for PhD students. The purpose of this route is for international students to graduate, international graduates to look for work following the successful completion of an eligible course. We recognize the valuable contribution the graduate makes to the UK, but it is important that those who transition into graduate level jobs are properly contributing to our economy. Therefore, we will reduce the ability for graduates to remain in the UK after their studies to a period of 18 months. The government will explore introducing a levy on higher education providers' income from international students to be further reinvested into the higher education and skill systems. Further details will be set out in the autumn budget. Now, this is one of the biggest news which people have been sharing online, and this is what they're worried about. But let me give you my honest take on it. If you're in the UK for 2 years after your graduation and you are not able to find a job within those 18 months, the truth is, it's most of you, I'll say 95% or maybe even more of you will not find a job in the last 6 months. So in a way it kind of makes sense, but at the same time, if you're just thinking about that you will have 6 less months to work in whatever job you were doing which is not related to your degree and you're not getting sponsored, so it kind of makes sense from UK government point of view as well. Now, the only advice I can give in this one is that as soon as you graduate or even before graduating, you start applying for jobs and do not settle for a job which does not sponsor you. You have to be strict. You have to kind of like upskill yourself even before you go to the UK. If you're thinking about going to the UK, start today. Start upscaling yourself. Start learning new things. Apply for random things. Be a freelancer, do random projects, do random research, and present yourself in such a way that when you're applying for jobs, employers should fight over you. Like, you should have multiple offers, multiple sponsored offers. And you should be able to choose whoever is paying you the more or whoever you like the most or whatever your requirement is. So the only way to beat the system is to, upskill yourself. And there's nothing wrong with it, because the more you will improve, the more skilled you are, you will do better in life. And even if you do not find a sponsored job after all the hard work, after getting all the skills, after getting all the experience, that won't go to waste. You will find use for it. It will come, you will kind of like reap the fruit of it somehow. It will come back to you. You don't know what is in front of you, like what will happen in 5 to 10 years, and whatever happens for a reason. So upskill yourself, and forget about that it has gone from 24 months to 18 months. 18 months should be enough for you. Now, moving forward in this, if we go down, there are lots of things. Like, they have talked about a lot of things, and everything they have mentioned here will affect someone somehow. Everything might not be for you, but if you go through this, you will understand why things are happening the way they are happening. And now we have come down to the page 65, which is talking about the English language. They have given some data here. Let me just zoom in. So here they have given the figure 17, skill level of migrant worker jobs by English language. Figure 17, skill level of migrant worker jobs by English language. So you can see the high skill, medium skill, low medium high, medium low, low skill. So people who cannot speak English well usually get low skill jobs. So they basically are saying that the better English you speak, the better job you get. And they're mostly targeting dependents from it, because the people who come to the UK, they have to give a certain English language exam, but the dependent didn't really have to give any kind of exam. But now they are introducing new language requirements across broader range of immigration rules for both main applicants and their dependents, to ensure better knowledge of English, including an assessment of improvement over time. Let me read it. We will increase language requirements for skilled workers and workers where a language requirement already applies from B1 to B2, in accordance with Common European Framework for Reference for Languages. They will also introduce a new English language requirement for all adult dependents of workers and students at A1 to align to spousal and partner routes, and we will work towards increasing this requirement over time. We want individuals to improve the English language skill over time as they continue their stay in the UK. We will introduce requirement to demonstrate progression to level A2 for any visa extension and B2 for settlement. We will now increase our existing requirements for settlement across majority of immigration routes from B1 to B2. Now this one I completely agree. So if you're coming to the UK, you should be able to use English in reading, writing, speaking, listening across board at a very high level. Because if you go to English speaking country, it should be already implied that you are able to speak English. Now the next point is the settlement option, and what they are doing is that it has been a long-standing principle that settlement in the UK is a privilege and not a right. So this is a very big statement, which is kind of like true in a way, that people who are looking to settle in the UK, they do consider it as a bit of a privilege. And under the current system, settlement is primarily qualified for on the basis of length of time spent in the UK alongside the knowledge of life test, which is used to verify knowledge of British customs, history, traditions, laws and political systems. Now what they've said is, we will therefore reform the current rules around settlement through an expansion of principles behind the points-based system, that individuals should earn their right to privileged immigration status in the UK through the long-term contribution they bring to our country. This expansion of point-based system will increase the standard qualifying period for settlements to 10 years. Now this was the biggest news which came out recently, that the whole system which people usually, whenever they apply for jobs, whenever they want to settle in a different country, they have this timeline in their mind that, okay, I will go there for masters, I will get 1 year, then I'll have my post-study visa, then I'll get a work visa, I'll stay there for 5 years, apply for ILR, which is the PR for UK. Then after 1 year I'll apply for citizenship and I'll get a British passport. But now this rule will impact a lot of people, from people who wanted that privileged passport so they have more freedom of movement, and now it is just gonna take 10 years. But it is also gonna impact people in other ways, like paying the NHS fees for 5 more years. Now people who are on visas in the UK, they pay NHS fees on top of the tax they pay, on top of the national insurance they pay, and after 5 years when they get the ILR, they stop paying that NHS fees, because like everyone else in the UK, they are paying taxes and they're paying NI, which contributes to the whole NHS system. But now the 5 more years of paying that NHS fees, which is gonna cause so much burden on a lot of people, that it might actually convince a lot of people who are thinking about coming to the UK to not come anymore. Now if you think about it, paying more NHS fees is kind of like, it is all interlinked, because they have already increased the threshold for salary. That means people, whoever will qualify to get a work visa in the UK, will be earning a bit more anyway. Plus, because of all this salary threshold and all of the other changes, the net immigration is gonna go down in the UK. So as a way to still have that income for a longer period of time, this is a very good strategy from the British government to increase, but keep their, NHS, this immigration health surcharge income a bit more steady, because the foreign national bring a lot of money to the NHS. Now there are other countries who give you PR for way less time than 10 years. And I know a lot of people now will be considering those countries. So these were all of the changes which has happened in 2025, from, increasing various fees, to changing the salary threshold, to now changing the amount of time people can stay on the graduate visa and the amount of time it will take people to get the ILR. Now looking at the recent global immigration trend, with protests in Australia, UK, Canada and US already deporting a lot of people, this is not gonna get better anytime soon. And the common thing with these countries are that there's English speaking countries, and the major choices for most of the international students. Now what I want to say is that the reason why we consider these countries is because of the English language. We are limiting ourselves just to 4 or 5 countries when there are over 190 countries in the world, and language is the only thing stopping us from considering these other options. There are so many countries like Austria, it has high quality of life, great architecture. Italy, it has such a rich culture, such great food and beautiful lifestyle. Your Nordic countries, your Finland, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, they have excellent social system. Spain is such a nice country, warm weather, way better than UK. And all of these, countries, they offer great opportunities, they offer great lifestyle, but just because of the language, we do not even consider them. Now, what will be my practical advice for young people? If you're watching it early and you still have a couple of years before you are planning to go abroad, my biggest advice will obviously be to upgrading your skills, like I have said, but it will also be considering learning some other languages. We consider these English speaking countries when you think about going abroad to study, but there's so many countries just in Europe with different languages and such a beautiful lifestyle. If you have time and if you can do some research, find what other places have and start learning a different language, it will be such a great thing overall for you in life. And even if you don't decide to go to those countries to study, knowing an additional language when you travel is such a privilege, and it will definitely help you a lot. So that was all for the video. Let me know what you think about these new changes, what do you think about my opinion, and write them in the comment sections. There's still a lot of things, a lot of things happening in the world, and I'm not even sure in which direction all of this is gonna go. So we all can do is just hope for the best and constantly improve ourselves. So we are not on, we don't have to rely on governments or other places. We can be self-sufficient wherever we are. Now that was all for this video. Till the next one, goodbye.